sometimes if you want to find a plant that you've never seen before, you might have to go off the beaten path. You might have to go be a little adventurous, maybe go even to a slough. Hey, I'm the Iowa Prairie Girl. I'm coming to you from Mason City, Iowa, Saragota County. That's in North Iowa. It is the middle of August, and I'm in a slough. And I'm almost kind of in a neighborhood in Mason City. It's kind of a hidden slough that not very many people know about it, and I'm going to kind of keep it that way. But I am going to tell you about a plant that grows here today, and that's called Turtlehead. So this slough here is protected by the Nature Conservancy. And I've been here a few times. Now I'm a little disappointed today because normally I would find, a dozen turtlehead, and I've so far seen 3 or 4 plants. Now I didn't realize I was a little early. It is the middle of August. The plant blooms in August and September, maybe into October. I thought I was at the prime time, but maybe I'm just a titch early because I do see another plant right over there that's just starting to develop. So stick around. We're going to look at turtlehead. There's white turtlehead that we're looking at. There are 2 types of turtlehead in Iowa. One is pink or reddish, and one is white. Turtlehead love wetlands. You're going to find them in a marsh or a fen, a slough, maybe along the side of a river or a lake, but it's going to be someplace where their feet can be wet. And so, like I said, I'm at a slough here in Mason City. I'm a little disappointed at the number of turtlehead I'm seeing, which is a reason why we need to support places like the Nature Conservancy, Iowa Heritage Foundation here in Iowa, and Ducks Unlimited. All organizations that put money into preserving our wetlands. So one thing you're going to see while I'm out here in the slough as well is that there's other plants here. There's a lot of Joe Pye weed. And I have a video on that if you'd like to watch that. And then sadly, there's a lot of purple loosestrife, which is an invasive plant. And I also have a video on that you can watch if you want to learn about that invasive plant. So sadly, I wonder if that's not the reason why we have less turtlehead here today. So keep watching. We're going to go and find some turtlehead, and I'll show you how to identify it and tell you about some of the insects that benefit from white turtlehead. Let's take a look at the plant. So the plant itself grows to be about 2 to 4 feet tall, and it has a central stem that you can see is a light green. It's smooth, no hair on it, kind of a waxy feel to it, and it's also almost like a square. It's got 4 sides. And so you have this central stem that goes up. Occasionally you might find a plant that branches off a little bit, but mostly you're just going to have one stem. And then on the top of that you have our flowers. And so this cluster of flower buds is about 3 to 6 inches tall, and they start blooming from the bottom up. So here we can see that this plant is just starting to bloom. It'll bloom for about a month, starting here, and when that one's done, and then they bloom towards the top. Now each flower is about 1.5 inches long, and it has 5 lobes. So there's 2 lobes on the top, and they kind of hang over and give a protection, kind of like a protection hood. And then there's 3 lobes on the bottom. Can't really see them, but 3 lobes on the bottom. The middle lobe is hairy. Now I'm not going to open this up. They are kind of a closed, tight flower, but they're hairy on the bottom, and they act like a landing pad for the insects that come to visit when the flowers open. There's 5 fuzzy stamens inside and a pistil, but obviously we're not going to see that on this flower. Now one of the only insects that's large enough to help pollinate this plant is a large bumblebee. So the large bumblebee will come and they'll open this up. They just wiggle themselves in there, and they'll go right inside there and get the nectar and get themselves covered with pollen, and then they go on to the next plant to help with pollination. If we take a look at the leaf of the plant, you can see that they grow opposite of each other on the plant, and they also grow at a 90-degree angle of each other. So you have these two here, and then you'll have these two here, so they're at 90. As they go up and down, they'll be 90 degrees from each other. You can see that they're lancelet shaped or lance shaped. They come to a real fine point at the tip of the leaf. They're very finely toothed. So the leaves average between 3 to 6 inches long. They can get to be up to 8 inches long, and they really don't have a stalk or a stem. They might have a real short one, or they really don't have one at all. But they're not clasping, they just really don't have a stem. Each of these flowers will dry up into a seed capsule, and they have fine brown flat seeds in them. And then those seeds, they kind of have wings on them, and they will either get dispersed in the wind, or because we're in a wetland, they'll fall into the water and they'll get moved around by the water. Turtlehead does have a taproot, but it also has rhizomes, and those rhizomes will sustain the plant throughout the winter, but it also will help the plant develop into colonies. As I mentioned, Turtlehead is pollinated by large bumblebees. It's also visited by other smaller insects. Now, the bumblebee is one of the few insects that's large enough and strong enough to break into the flower itself. And so smaller insects, I don't know if you can see that, I got a picture too, the smaller insects will cheat. And so they'll actually chew on the petals or the lobes of the plant and get into the nectar towards the back. Chew towards the back of the flower so they can get to the nectar. So they kind of cheat and don't go through the entryway. The bad thing is that they do get the nectar, but they don't necessarily get pollen on them, and so they don't help with pollination. So the turtlehead is visited by bumblebees, butterflies, and hummingbirds. Now, turtlehead is the host plant of the Baltimore Checkerspot butterfly. And so what happens is that the checkerspot visits the turtlehead earlier in the summer or late spring, and they lay their eggs on the turtlehead. And they'll lay between 100 to 700 eggs on a plant. And then the caterpillars develop, and they'll eat from the turtlehead and grow. And then they kind of stay together as a clump, and then they will hibernate in the ground until the next summer or the next spring, and when they come out, then they will again eat off the turtlehead. So apparently turtlehead is bitter tasting and is not a favorite of deer, so it is deer resistant, and I really didn't find any research that said that other animals benefit from turtlehead or that they eat from it. So sadly, if you've noticed, this turtlehead is surrounded by purple loosestrife. I'm sure some of you might have noticed that. This particular slough that I'm in, it's been maybe 2 years since I've been here, and I noticed the purple loosestrife then. And I also noticed that there were more turtleheads, and so I'm having a hard time finding. I've only found 3 to 4 turtleheads in this particular slough, whereas before I'm sure there was a dozen. So purple loosestrife, if you don't know, is this invasive purple plant here next to me. What happens is that it's a wetland plant, and it starts to, once it shows up in a wetland, it's pretty much going to take over. And as an invasive plant, it takes over the land, and so your native plants and your good plants like this have a hard time growing, and you'll see fewer and fewer of them. If you want to learn more about purple loosestrife, I do have a video that you can watch to how to identify it. I know some people try to eradicate it, but right now I think counties and organizations that manage our wetlands, it's so hard to manage. It just kind of goes crazy on us. So turtlehead has a lot of names. Most of them all make sense. So you have turtlehead, and that's because the upper hood overlapping the bottom lobes looks like a turtle head. Other names are codhead or fish head or fish mouth, again because it looks like a fish mouth, or snake head or snake mouth, again because it might look like the mouth of a snake. We have bitter herb because it is bitter tasting, and shellflower, and again that's because it looks like could represent the shell of a turtle. Thanks for watching my video on white turtlehead. Like I mentioned, to see some different flowers, you might have to be a little adventurous. You might have to get a little wet and a little dirty to see some wetland plants. I mentioned plants videos that I have on Joe Pyeweed, purple loosestrife, purple stem angelica. Other wetland videos that I have on plants are arrowhead, swamp milkweed, great blue lobelia, just to name a few. So check out my YouTube channel, subscribe, share it with your friends. Okay, so hey, I'm the Iowa Prairie Girl, coming to you from a wetland here. As always, I hope that you get a chance to get out and enjoy nature. You don't necessarily have to get in a wetland, but maybe on a bike trail or at a park. But when you do, I hope you see something wonderful. Thanks for watching. Well, thanks for watching my video on white turtlehead. If you don't know, I have 2 children's books out. In this video, I talked about bumblebees and the Baltimore Checkerspot butterfly. In my books, Gentian Wakes the Mason Bees, we have Gentian, who is our little fairy here. She lives in a park and she takes care of the flowers and the animals in her park. And in this book, we have Gentian Wakes the Mason Bees. And you and your children or grandchildren will learn about our native bees, the mason bees, and how Gentian helped them wake up for the spring to help the early buttercup. And in my second book, Gentian Helps the Monarchs, we have the monarch butterfly in the park, and the monarch butterfly can't find the milkweed. And so in this book, the readers will learn all about common milkweed and how it's essential, or any milkweed is essential for the monarch butterfly. So check out my 2 children's books. You can find them on Amazon, or you can have your local bookstore order them for you and ask them to put them on your shelf. Thank you for your support.